Hello, everybody. Welcome to On Podcast, the On Microsoft podcast, the only podcast for On Microsoft where we talk about Microsoft things on a podcast. I think I'm getting pretty good at that. We want to welcome everybody here today. We got a jam-packed podcast full of Windows stuff. So for all you Windows fans, this is one for you guys. Xbox fans, you guys can come back next week. I'm just kidding. Everybody stay. Everybody listen. Yeah, I'll let you start kind of going down the run-through.
So our first topic is one that I've been looking forward to, or maybe not looking forward to because it's such a small thing, or maybe even such a big thing, depending on how you look at it and depending on how we're ordering our podcast today, which is the Windows 10 May 2021 update getting ready for final release. Microsoft just made it official that the final Windows 10 May 2021 update build is official and is rolling out now to Windows insiders. So yeah, that's our first topic, and we'll just run through what's new and what's changed in this release really quickly. And then I know you're always talking about Sun Valley, and here we have it. We finally had some hints of Sun Valley.
Yeah, we have some hints of Sun Valley that nobody saw. So we're going to talk about it and get you guys up to speed on it. So that's one thing. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is Microsoft earnings. And in doing so, we're probably going to talk about the industry. We're going to talk about the competition. Apple did amazing. Amazon did amazing. Facebook did relatively amazing. Everyone did amazing in the tech world despite a pandemic. So it seems like when people go indoors, everyone makes money.
And Microsoft posted some new numbers on Windows 10 as well as Teams that relate to that earnings that we'll discuss as well.
Exactly. And then we have our fast recap, and I'll let you kind of run through some of those things.
So fast recap is a new segment this week because there was a lot that happened this week, and we don't want to sit here for 3 hours talking about Microsoft, even though I know you probably love hearing us, but there's a bunch of big Microsoft news topics that happened this week that we'll just speed through. Microsoft had another acquisition. There's some changes coming to the way developers make money on the Microsoft Store. There was some Jedi contract news, which I know you've been keeping up with, and then also some Office 365 news and some new fonts.
Yeah, so just like as quickly as you read those, we're going to try to get you guys through the news so you guys can go about the rest of your day super intelligent and impress your friends during water cooler conversations. Then we also have our favorite section, which is basically the end of the podcast, where we get to talk about all the things that should be happening next week.
Yeah, and for that, Build 2021 registration finally opened up. And then there's also a new Surface Laptop 4 ad making the rounds on TV and social media, which we want to get into. And then I got another, because we're always talking about hardware on the week ahead, we got another piece of hardware to review, which is this GameSir X2 Bluetooth mobile gaming controller for xCloud and Stadia and other mobile gaming services, which I'm just going to get into really quickly.
Yeah, and then I also have a ton of hardware, which everyone just keeps sending laptops. It's crazy. I am so backed up. But we should have some of those reviews coming out soon, and I may actually do touch upon each of those reviews, Xbox or xCloud gaming, because hey, I'm going to try it on every laptop now.
So let's get started here with the Windows 10 May 2021 update, otherwise known as 21H1. Ooh, that's really a mouthful, right?
Yeah, we got to get better at these names. I want to go back to just spring, fall updates, which in essence, this is what we're getting with the 2021 update 20H1 release. We're getting closer to the public release of Windows 10 version 21H1, which we officially named the May 2020 update. So,
but 2021 update.
2020. I'm so used to 2020 now, and I want to get away from that year. The 2021 update. Microsoft just announced that the 21H1 build 19043.928, which was released on April 13th, should be the final build for the May 2021 update, and it's available to download as an ISO as of last week, I think it is. I mean, you can get it today, basically. For Windows insiders in the release preview who have yet to install Windows 10 version 21H1, the next Windows 10 release is now available as an optional update for seekers in the Windows Update store. So, go ahead.
Yeah, and as we've been complaining and whining about the past few months and probably even the last 2 years, where Microsoft has a small update in the spring, and then I guess you could consider it a major update in the fall. But 21H1, otherwise known as the May 2021 update, is not going to be a major release for most people, that is. It's rumored that this update is setting the stages for Sun Valley, which we'll get into next. And as a result, you're not going to find anything major in the May 2021 update. Microsoft last noted when they announced 21H1, I think it was back in February, that it's just going to come with a scoped set of features to improve security, remote access, and the overall quality of Windows. I believe one of the newest features is multi-camera support for Windows Hello, and some otherwise performance improvements for Windows Defender Application Guard. I mean, that's the two biggest things if you're looking forward to downloading the May 2021 update. I keep getting so tied up when it's not rolling off my tongue.
There's too many 20s in there, and H's and ones. But I do wonder if this, how the multi-camera support for Windows Hello goes into effect. I wonder if this will help retroactively support Windows Hello on devices people already own, so you don't have to go buy a new Surface or anything like that. So if you have a sophisticated enough, I don't know, maybe 1080 or HD cam that you can kind of get Windows Hello jerry-rigged on there. So we'll see how they do this, or if they, or if they just open it up for more camera options in the future. So we'll see how they roll that out.
As far as timing, when it comes to, again, we're saying it's getting close to release, but we don't know when everyone will be able to download it. Right now, it's only for release preview insiders, but release preview is the safest branch of the insider program. And if you want to opt your PC into it and download the 21H1 update right away, it's not going to, as our friend Cody loves to say, make your PC explode. It's just, it's solid. There's no real bugs in it. But yeah, if you're looking forward to not enrolling your PC in the Insider program to get it, we're thinking it might come out on Patch Tuesday, which is May 11th, because right now these updates aren't major. They're not like they were before, where it's a full-on operating system update. It's just being delivered through Windows Update as a general security patch, and security patches come on the first Tuesday of each month, which this month happens to be on May 11th. So maybe that's when you could expect it if you're not a Windows insider.
Yeah, that is a possibility. And again, this is a Windows update. So for those of you who have done this before or gone around this merry-go-round, just wait. Maybe even wait till June, because who knows? This could be one of the situations where the May update comes out in full force and fully functional in November. Who knows?
But that said, I keep mentioning how the May 2021 update is setting the stage for Sun Valley, but we finally saw some hints of Sun Valley, even though it's hidden away in the insider builds, right?
Yeah, we got to see major hints of this redesign in the latest Windows Insider builds. One of the software engineers has done some tweaking to expose what could end up becoming Windows 10 Sun Valley's floating taskbar menu. Now, I don't recall in our piece if we got renders or if we got concepts, because this is just code, so to speak, right now.
He said that it was hidden away in the, I forgot what program it was, but I think it is the
Windows Shell Experience.
Windows Shell Experience. There you go. And he tweaked like a bunch of numbers or something, and he got it to appear. And he actually had the screenshots of how it looks.
Okay,
and
so we did get a screenshot.
I'll have it up on the screen while as we're talking here. And it looks pretty nice. I'm not sure. I played with 10X, and it looks a lot like what you get in 10X, but I don't know what you think. I know you're always critical.
I mean, the taskbar is probably one of the most important functions next to the File Explorer.
Right.
So it's going to be crucial how they implement this. I know that we're just recently talking about news and weather and how it's kind of chunking up the taskbar. We also have a ton of extra icons like the writing experience, the keyboard, your Wi-Fi, your audio, things like that. So while it's cool to kind of see it, hover in the middle or wherever you're going to place it, how they do icons and what their jump list looks like is super important. So I'm more interested in that than just knowing that it's around. And again, I don't even know if that's going to be, if that's just code to test Windows 10X versus what's actually going to be in Sun Valley.
Right. Either way, I think it's pretty beautiful because right now the jump menus in the taskbar are kind of glued to the icon that you're clicking. So in this change, presumably it's gonna come eventually because I mean it is hidden in the code and it's just not activated yet. But presumably when it does come, it'll look pretty nice because you'll have a little space between the menu. It's not going to be glued to the taskbar itself. And guess what? Rounded corners.
Yeah, we're all about rounded corners. The old Metro is dying at death by 1,000 cuts with all these rounded corners. Which again, I'm all for. It seems like rounded corners are kind of the universal language on almost every platform. iOS has it. Android is going. I think Android's actually gone OD on the rounded corners. They've rounded everything to where now it's just rounded rectangles versus anything else. So again, I'm cool with the rounded corners. I am interested to see if they're testing this functionality with touch because we, as much as I think the desktop could use a visual overhaul, I think there needs to be a touch overhaul that needs to be considered if you're going to stick with this touchscreen dynamic and allow foldables or your convertibles that fold into tablets. And if we're not going to make any new Windows tablets to kind of compete with the Samsung or the iPad in those direct head-to-heads, then this new hybrid needs to be touch focused. And when you said, we talked about how the jump menus are glued to the icon. So, it's a kinetic touch. If I touch the icon, the jump menu shows up. I wonder how that dynamic works when it's no longer connected to that and you need to slide from icon to icon or anything like that. I'm wondering if they're considering all these things with this new taskbar.
But they do seem to be bringing more of 10X into regular Windows 10. I mean, the icons were one thing. We talked about that a couple of months ago. And the same coder who exposed the jump list in Windows 10, he from Sun Valley, that is, he also found that they're considering putting that little pill bar menu thing where you slide it down and slide it up, like how it is in Windows 10X in actual Windows 10. There's also a piece of code there to activate that as well, where it goes inside the Action Center menu in the corner. So it does look like they're setting the stones. We're slowly getting there to morphing Windows 10X with Windows 10.
And that's my fear, is that we're slowly getting there. I mean, technically speaking, I know that they've only hinted at Sun Valley, but there is a timeline that's in place if they're going to get it out by the end of this year. So they have a few months. We've only seen code. We should be testing this stuff. We should be all saying oh, this is great direction, versus the old Sinofsky days where it's oh, here it is, and you're like, oh god, it's Windows 8.
But still, this is the first time that we'd actually seen live code elements of Windows 10 Sun Valley inside an active Windows Insider build, even though it's hidden. Yeah. So again, it is a big deal to see this out there in the wild, even though you need to tweak with it to get it up and running, because this is the first time, other than the mock-ups that we've seen that Windows Central and Zach Bowden had, he just drew that up based off what he thinks it will look like. But now we actually know perhaps what it will look like.
Yeah. And I give him the applause for that. I'm going to try and stay optimistic and say, kudos to that. Let's just get some more. Maybe the next update we get, next Insider build, we'll even have even more code you can play through.
So why don't you get us now into Microsoft earnings? Because we do know that 10X is going to be their big money earner, right?
Yeah, let's get into some more actual substantial things people can actually play with if you're an investor.
Hit the highlights first and tell people what they want to know about Windows 10 and Teams and the momentum that Microsoft is seeing.
And again, I was going to say, even if you're an investor, these numbers are amazing. Windows 10 hit 1.3 billion active devices, and that's up from 1 billion last year. So they added the 0.3, and again, this is during the pandemic, where most of their sales actually surprisingly came from consumers, not the enterprise. I know that normally, you would have your business buy licenses and you distribute them there. These are people. A lot of these numbers are coming from people buying new PCs. So their non-OEM revenue was up, I think, about 40% in this quarter, obviously, than last quarter. Now, with that being said, that was because we didn't have PCs. Going on to the next number, though, this is probably an even more impressive one, is that Microsoft Teams added I think they topped 145 million daily active users. And when we did the math, it equals out to roughly about 10 million per month.
Yeah.
And that's up from last quarter. And it's pretty amazing numbers, especially, again, when you are in such a stacked competitive industry where Zoom, Slack are all vying for the same attention, the same sort of eyeballs, that they were able to grow this amount. So it's, as much as we see all these anecdotal stories of people saying they hate Teams, they wish that their team, their offices would go to Slack, stuff like that. They're still gaining seats amazingly and at a pretty good clip. We haven't seen numbers, I don't believe, released from Zoom or Slack recently. I don't think they've done their earnings just yet, but we'll see if they have some numbers to follow that. Getting into sort of the nitty gritty and trying to get too into this because this isn't a financial podcast, but Microsoft reported revenues of $41.7 billion with a net of $15.5 billion for the quarter. So again, for the 3 months following the holiday season. And again, January tends to be a pretty good month for anybody that sells hardware or any type of product that can be purchased, because December is your Christmas month.
Coming off of Black Friday and all the holiday shopping. Exactly.
They're also, their earnings report represents a 19% revenue gain year over year in this particular quarter, these particular 3 months. So again, going, and a lot of these numbers from last year were almost pre-pandemic. Things were still going at a pretty decent rate before, I think, March 9th or whatever, when everything's kind of shut down here in the US. While the PC market was kind of held back, they're going to be held back by chip shortages. Microsoft is still pretty confident that the cloud is going to still be going pretty strong, and there's rumor within the industry that they could potentially beat Amazon if they continue at the steady pace. Again, there's a lot of moving parts and factors here.
It's a far way away.
I mean, it's in the next 90 days, we'll see how this works out for them. But again, at the rate that they're going, this is revenue, not actual seats or participants. So the money that they're making, the deals that they're signing, the contracts that they're accumulating, that's all tied into these revenues. So they could be getting bigger deals. And again, this, I don't know if they've bundled in the numbers for their most recent contract with the U.S. Army for the VR headsets and things like that. But and depending on how those numbers even out for the next 10 years, they may lump those in each quarter, and that boosts them as well. But again, with chip shortages, they did mention one of their sections, which was down for the quarter, was Surface revenue. Right. They'd come off a pretty impressive $2 billion, I believe, last quarter. They were down to, I think it was 1.2 or 1.5, I think it was. And they're also, during the investors call, talking about how it's going to be kind of a tough road going forward for them to maintain these numbers. Now, again, they're not, it's not like the business is going to fall off a cliff anytime soon, but to maintain the, close to $2 billion trajectory that they were on. One, because of chip supply shortages, they also use a lot of custom parts, and those are going to be short supply because manufacturing processes are tough for everybody. Materials are hard to come by. It's going to be a lurch for a lot of people, a lot of companies in the next few months, even though demand is still there.
What about Xbox? Did they talk about Xbox revenue?
Of course. Xbox revenue represented a 232% gain over last quarter. And for those, hardcore export fanboys, it's not because people just love the Xbox. I mean, granted, part of it is, but you got to remember this time last year, the Xbox Series X wasn't around. It was hard to come by. It would have been hard to come by starting, I think, when did they start selling that? In
November-ish, yeah.
November-ish. So when you have only these Xbox Series S selling at this time, obviously now that we have next gen consoles, there's a huge demand for it. We don't know what their monthly is. I know Sony had a gangbuster quarter, and I think they said they had sold, they were selling about 1 million a month or something close to that. Xbox has hinted that they are on pace to do what they did last generation, so they could be, 600 to 700,000 a month behind Sony to get where they were relatively at. Again, part of this is supply. The other part is just demand. I mean, there's no real games for either of the consoles right now. I think Sony's selling off of its goodwill, but going forward with Game Pass, another thing was another highlight for Microsoft. I think they said that was let me see.
They don't directly report Xbox sales, right? It's just generally speaking,
content and services
entire division, yeah.
But they did mention that content and services grew by 34%.
All right.
And the hardware was the 232%. So they broke out that. They didn't break out between live and ultimate and all that stuff. But if we're assuming that they're phasing out live and rolling it into the Game Pass, that's 34%. It was hugely that. So again, Xbox is doing really well after having a few years of not doing as well. It seems like they finally got Xbox on track to do well. Windows, like I said, did well. Surprisingly, the non-OEM stuff, OEM stuff was down slightly. And again, this is all pandemic related. Microsoft, again, they had a ton of warnings and future forecasts to kind of look out for, and you'd have to read that in my piece. But with all things being equal, cloud's going to be big for them. Surface is predictably going to be down, regardless of a Surface Pro X or even a Surface Duo, anything like that. Windows is maintaining, and it's on the strength of PCs at the moment. And I believe, and Office 365 is doing pretty amazing. Azure, again, and keep an eye out for the next 90 days to see if they actually do surpass Amazon. And if they do, you can expect them to jump right in that 2 trillion category right next to Apple, which I believe Apple stands alone at the moment, but they are edging close to it. After hearing these numbers, for whatever reason, their stock took a hit. I'm assuming because people were selling off stuff because they had made a quick buck on it. But I do, we're expecting it to rebound and continue upwards. So again, if you're an investor with roughly $250 or something like that to start buying stock, now would be a good time to start getting into that again.
I think it was Time magazine that called Microsoft a titan in the industry for being able to grow their stock by 50% despite the pandemic. So do you see Microsoft making even more money going forward, even though consumer stuff might go down? Like Xbox might not sell because of the shortages, and Surface might not sell because of the chip shortages. But of course, Teams and Azure and cloud is what is driving their momentum. So do you think it's only going to get bigger for Microsoft heading into the next quarter?
Yes, definitely. And again, we are all fans of the tangible stuff like the hardware and all the consumer things that we can kind of tie directly into our own investments with the company. But these are all just so far icing on the cake for Microsoft. Azure is still gaining, and with the pandemic, and even with people coming out of the pandemic and doing hybrid work from home, work from off premises kind of things. Microsoft is uniquely positioned because they focus a lot of investment in the hybrid solutions versus AWS, which is more your cloud only. They are uniquely positioned to kind of take advantage of this slow march back to a new normal works. Half the people in the office are now working from home at designated times or for extended periods of time, and the other half in the office versus, back during the height of the pandemic where everyone was at home. So yeah, they're going to do great. Even with even if Xbox decides to fall off a cliff for whatever reason, it's the reason why I think Times gave them that mark is because they were one of the most diverse portfolios for a single company. They have hardware, they have software, they have the cloud, and furthermore, they also have the Office, which is, again, their Teams has become its own platform. And I would assume, maybe 5 years from now, we'll talk about Teams the same way we talk about Office 365 in general. It won't just be, oh, here's the one app. It'll be like, oh, are you on Teams and do you have X number of features with it? Just like we list Office and we say, oh, it's Word, it's Excel, it's PowerPoint, it's Access, it's Publisher. We'll say the same thing about Teams. It's, what is the learning one that they just did?
Viva.
It'll be Viva. It'll be, other forms of the telecast broadcasting and things like that. It'll be broken out in its own thing, and that's what they're working quickly towards.
Well, that said, that was a nice recap of the things that mattered about the money Microsoft is making. But now we'll go on to our fast recap because that Microsoft is acquiring. I'll put like 10 minutes on. Let's say 8 minutes on the screen here for us to get through these big 4 topics.
8 on the clock.
But let's get into the first topic, which is Microsoft acquiring the flat car maker Kinvolk. I don't know what this is, but maybe you could get into it for me.
To be honest with you, I'm going to open it up just now. I'm going to also stall by saying that Microsoft has, as you just said, they have $15.5 billion to play with just for the quarter. Who knows what they've invested for the year? So we expect to see some more big purchases, and this is part of the reason why we said that they're being diverse. Again, reading the post that we had, they announced that it is formally acquired Kinvolk.
We're saying it wrong.
Oh, huge. And for our Berlin fans, please correct us. Give us the phonetic spelling. It's a Berlin-based creator and distributor of flat car container Linux, an enterprise-grade open cloud native stack. And again, we got this information from ZNet when it first broke. The amount that they're purchased for is undisclosed. We don't know how this deal is going to work out, if it's going to work in stock, some sort of buyback, or just full cash. Again, they have it on hand. What is specifically going to be happening, or at least was released in the press release, is that I believe it's the K company is excited, or Microsoft is excited to bring the K team and the technologies to Microsoft. They look forward to their contributions to bring Azure and their customers together for an open source community. So this seems like another tool that could probably benefit their GitHub and benefit anybody who is already using Linux. And this is part of the reason why they brought the Linux subset to Windows as well, to just make that transition easier. So for Linux fans who were contemplating using Azure, I'm sure they're going to roll this in. And until I have more information about it, I'm going to stop talking about it because I'm not fully in depth about it. But again, just keep an eye on it for anybody who is a GitHub Linux user and investing in the cloud or on-premise solutions soon.
All right, now get into the Jedi contracting, which I know you've been following.
Jedi, I do know a lot about, actually. And we got, Amazon got effectively a win last week when a judge decided to dismiss Microsoft and the DoD's dismissal of the complaint. Essentially, Microsoft and DoD said, there's not enough evidence here to go forward with AWS's complaint that there was bias and an interference in the adjudication of the Jedi contract. Amazon has been long claiming that Trump and his administration put undue pressure and forced basically the DoD to select Microsoft. They've also claimed that Microsoft, and this is part of, I guess, a personal jab, is that they offer a very inferior product at a higher cost, that AWS is the obvious clear winner, and that now that the judge will now take up the actual complaint, they will look into it. It relies, what this basically says, and what a lot of legal analysts are saying, is that obviously there's enough meat on their case to look into this. Now, going forward, we don't know exactly how this will play out because this has been looked at and awarded back to Microsoft twice before. Right. So a third time would obviously probably close the door on this if it is the third time. If not, it would probably force the DoD to redo this whole evaluation. Now, the DoD has also stressed that they're a year and a half out now since they've awarded this, and they would like to obviously get their infrastructure and their cloud back up to the cloud and secure. They're waiting on this. And this is supposed to be a 10-year project. So they're saying that, if they have any more delays, if the judge does find something and they have to start over again, they may just be done with the JEDEC contract altogether and probably piecemeal the solution. So Microsoft or Amazon may not get any of this if that's going forward. That is all to say that both Microsoft and Amazon already have contracts, and they already have working relationships with the DoD. So, we could potentially see this $10 billion go up in the smoke, and Amazon gets a wish, so to speak, while Microsoft will still have their Army contract, which they just recently got, and it could be beneficial to them of almost up to $21.5 billion. So while Amazon's complaining about this $10 billion contract, Microsoft went around and got a potentially $20 billion contract for creating HoloLens technology.
We'll
keep an eye on it.
Well said. I think time's running low, so I'm still on the clock here, speeding through it. But the third, 4 minutes probably.
Okay, this is good. We're good.
The third topic is the Windows 10 Microsoft Store reducing its cut on game sales to 12%. This has long been a complaint. I mean, just look what happened with Apple and Epic Games. But now Microsoft is said it will reduce its cut on game sales on the Windows 10 store to just 12%, which is what Epic has been doing since the launch of the Epic Game Store on Windows and Mac OS. Head of Xbox Game Studios, Matt Booty, announced the news in a blog post, and which mentioned Microsoft's commitment to PC gaming. The new Microsoft Store terms for PC game developers is a huge deal because it will be interesting to see if the 12% cut could become a new standard across the industry. Basically, it's putting more money into developers' pockets, which is what is important because you want to encourage app and game development on Windows 10 itself.
Yeah, I'm interested in how this works out for Microsoft Store in general. I wonder because we were just talking last week about how they are poised to consolidate the Microsoft Store. So if it's just an idea to get developers to put to forego their own websites and start putting marketing and advertising into the Microsoft Store to get those Win32 apps as well. They can't really charge people who used to make 100% of their profit from their own websites now to say, oh, here's 30% to put your .xex app into the store. So now it's 15% and let us do some of the heavy lifting. So I wonder if that is, this idea expanded.
And this rule will not apply to Xbox game developers. It's only for third-party developers. So again, it's encouraging the smaller guys to come up there and publish games in the Microsoft Store. But that said, now our final fast topic, is Microsoft asking Office users to choose the new default font to replace Calibri. There was a blog post about it which went through all 5 of these fonts, and they're all modern takes on sans serif and these old, boring, old school fonts, which have been present in Office since, I think, 2007. So Microsoft needs your help in picking one. You could download the fonts now, and I'll have previews of it on the screen if you want to decide right here, right now on the podcast. But they're picking new fonts, and they need your help to replace Calibri in Office 365.
Yeah, that's basically the story. I've chosen Skinna because it just sounds cool. To be honest with you, all these fonts, like you said, are just modern text and sans serif. They're with very subtle changes. And just to keep this in mind, this isn't just for Office. This will be throughout all of Windows. If you're a person who has commitment issues, like the kind of people who don't like to get tattoos because you don't want to see a permanent change, think very hard because this could be on your Windows screen for the next 5 to 10 years.
And I think we made it like in 8 minutes or less. So congrats on us. This was a trial of our first new, because we're always trying new things on the podcast.
Yes,
so we tried this fast recap thing. But now let's go back to week ahead, which is what we do every week here on Microsoft.
Yeah, we'll take the next hour to talk about that. No, I'm just kidding.
Build 2021 is coming up. What do you have to say about Build 2021 registration opening up?
I registered, and based on rumors and discussions that I'm having internally on Twitter with other people, It could be a sort of boring build.
Build.
Yeah. The first build I've actually officially registered for, and it's going to be the boring one. And I say that with all due respect because it is informative for developers. I'm not a developer. This is why I say that. But for any developer who's interested in Office, who's interested in Azure, who's interested in AI, IoT, all those kind of things, I believe this is going to be heavy on that. I also believe that they're going to save all the Windows stuff for a separate event. I forget what they're calling those events. The breakout, like what's next, I think it is.
What's next? Yep.
The What's Next series. There could be one that happens prior to build or just shortly after build, where we might get into some information about Sun Valley, about the Microsoft Store, about how it's going to time into gaming, browser information, stuff like that. I believe is for the next one. So, with that being said, developers who are interested in all of the good stuff that makes Microsoft money, this should be a great build for you. For all you Windows people, we'll see you at the What's Next.
And speaking of making money, Microsoft loves ads, and they put out a new Surface Laptop 4 ad, which, again, kind of a little bit controversial, like I love saying. For every time I see one of these new ads, it's controversial for me because they're always slamming the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air or the MacBook in some way or another. But in this new Surface Laptop 4 ad, the teen from the other ads about the Surface Pro what was the other one? The Surface Pro and they had a different ad before, but yeah.
I think it was just the Surface Pro. He was comparing it to like the iPad, and then he was comparing it to the
MacBook. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they compared it to the iPad and the MacBook, and now they're not directly comparing it, but the new ad, it's subtly comparing it to the MacBook, where he has his sister, and then the sister's like, oh, do you need a dongle? And then she's like, oh, it doesn't have a touch screen. And then they're comparing it subtly to the MacBook Pro again. And I'm actually surprised that they actually had this ad come out like just 2 weeks after the Laptop 4 launched.
Yeah, it's timing. And again, I'm trying to, as I get older, look at the whole thing from a 30,000-foot view, because we see it as like, Satya Nadella is probably going down and giving them a script of what to say, and it's that 1-to-1 ratio when it's not. Microsoft hires a bunch of marketing companies, and they all have different marketing goals and expectations. This one is obviously catered towards a younger crowd. They have, nice brightly colors. They have, this, popish music in the background. I am not a fan of these ones in particular because I feel like they're painting themselves into a corner, especially with the rumored MacBook coming up with a ton of new ports. It's got the M1 processor, which makes it a really great laptop. It's got tons of battery, which Microsoft doesn't hint at in these. So whoever this marketing company is, I think they're doing a good job trying to aim at this audience. It's not for me. It's not for, a lot of people. We always question in our industry, who is this audience for? But they are doing a series of Surface in general ads that made by or designed by Surface ones, which I feel are more, I guess, for lack of a better term, classy. I really enjoy those because it's not about selling the device in a one-to-one comparison. I don't think people are going necessarily out saying like, oh, here's a MacBook and here's a Surface Pro. It's, I like Windows because of these things. It makes me be this creative, and on this device, this is how creative I can be with it. And I feel like that should be done for everybody. Samsung, for Apple, these are the devices I like using. And this is why I like using it. And let the people make that decision. So kudos to the this Surface Laptop 4 team. I like the idea, but I do like the design by ones a little better.
And that said, the final thing for a week ahead is an upcoming review I have for the GameSir X2 Bluetooth mobile gaming controller. Again, another mouthful of a name for a product.
You get the word salad ones, don't you?
But it is a Bluetooth mobile controller for the for xCloud and Stadia, where you pull it. I wish I had actually bought it with me and first, but it is upstairs sitting next to my Xbox. But I'll have the things on.
Where it should be.
I'll have the images on the screen, but it's like a Nintendo Switch, where you have the joysticks on the two sides, and you get to pull it and then put your phone in the middle and then connect it via Bluetooth to play both xCloud and Stadia and even Apple Arcade games. It works on Android and iOS, so it's multi-platform, and it has a USB-C charging port, and it feels really premium, and it's a very nice controller, and I'm looking forward to doing a full review of it next week.
Okay, and like you said, I have a list of, I'm not even going to name them because I don't want to promise anybody anything, but I have some Lenovo's to review. We should, like I said, hopefully we're getting our service in to kind of pit against all of these. I think going forward, this will be my like standard like Surface versus this, Surface versus that.
Question, do you want an AMD Surface or do you want an Intel Surface laptop for?
To be honest with you, looking at some of the reviews that are currently out, I would say the Intel one. It seems like AMD cut some corners in order to get the battery life, which is great, you know, if you're getting ready to travel. But they do a lot of throttling, so I feel like I'm not going to get the full performance. It'll be kind of a letdown for all the people who are reviewing other devices that do obviously provide performance to be like, oh well, the Surface 4 lost again. Oh. But that's what I'm hoping for. We'll see. You know, you get what you get, and as my 4-year-old told my 3-year-old, you get what you get, and that's it. So
that is a very good quote.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about does it for now, and I'll leave you for the traditional outro because I think we forgot to say our Twitter names at the start of the show.
We did because we saved it for the end. This is why people have to listen. I am Mindhead1 on Twitter. You are
AVAC Jern.
Yeah, if you have any complaints, comments, questions, would like to even be on here as a guest, talk about 15-20 minutes about the things you like about Microsoft, or you want to complain on video, reach us at Twitter. You can also reach us on the website. We also have our emails there too. You can also go to On Microsoft on Twitter. Again, this is for anybody who doesn't have time to read the full articles on our website, but or just you're traversing Twitter. That's where you can get all of our information on giveaways, information on all of the things that we talk about, even get links to our podcasts and previous ones as well. So again, it's a great resource for information for on Microsoft.
Too many ons and too many Microsofts for one day.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon. Same place, same time.
Yeah. Again, everyone, if you're still wearing a mask, do so. Get vaccinated if you can, so we can all go outside and have a great summer this year, and realize that it's too hot and go back inside to play our Xboxes.
All right, everyone. Take care.
Bye.